These are the assembly instructions for the Angry Badger Hellbadger dropship. The kit, as it's shown here, has been spray painted in advance. We prefer to spray paint the kit in advance because, as you can see through some of the pictures of the completed Hellbadger, that there's a lot of angles, and we found it very difficult to spray paint all those different angles without losing a lot of the details. So for us, it's just better to spray paint the individual pieces first and then assemble them. So with that in mind, we'll get right into it. So the first part are to glue the bulkheads to the floor. There's two parts of the floor, the front floor and the back floor. The first part is to face them forward, and you can see it's etched in here. It says to the front. So before we can do this, the very first part is we have to glue the doors on the inside of the bulkheads. In the kit there are 5 doors, 4 large ones and 1 small one. For this part you only need 2 of the large doors and the small door. And what you're going to do is you're going to take this door and glue it to the inside of each of the bulkheads. Now on the door itself there's a fine etched line that corresponds with the inside of the doorway here. And you just put glue and you line them up. On the bulkheads, just make sure that the edge of the door doesn't drop down below the bottom of the bulkhead, or else it won't fit properly. And you just go through and you glue them all like this. That way, like that. And that's it. And then we can move on to the actual putting the bulkheads onto the floor. So the next step is to glue the bulkheads to the actual 2 floor pieces. There's a numbering system, so if on the floor parts you'll notice that it says 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way 1 through 7, and you have 1 through 7 bulkheads, and the numbers are etched on the actual bulkheads. And all you're going to do is take the number 1 bulkhead and put it into the number 1 slot and glue that like that, and just pretty much move down the line. I'll show you how to do it. The first thing to notice though is that on the actual main body floor there are 2 size holes. There's a small square hole and a rectangular hole. You're going to be using the small square holes. The rectangular hole are going to be for the landing gear later on. So really what you're going to do is, for instance, number 7, you're going to pretty much just run a bead of glue here, and you want to get this at a 90-degree angle, so just grab whatever square piece of wood is in the kit and slide it in like that, and just square it off and hold it until, there we go, and hold it until it sets. And pretty much you just go down the line and glue them all in like that. Just run down the line until it's all set. And that's it. This part is we're going to put the sides of the Hellbadger onto the frames, the bulkheads that we just built. Before we do that, we have to actually put the gunwales and the doors into the sides, very similar to the way that we put the doors on the bulkheads. So for instance, this is one side, and you can see the blank spaces. You have a large square for a door, and then 2 smaller squares, one for one gunwale and one for the other gunwale. The gunwales are the recessed panels that allow the gun to turn back and forth and without hitting the side. So these are the gunwales, the little pieces, and those pieces will go similar to the way we did the doors. They'll just go on the inside like this, and the door will do the exact same thing. Just kind of fit on, and I'll show you all about how to do that. And the back gunwale will do the same thing. The thing with the back gun, and I'll show you how to do it, but there's a particular direction that it points, but the gunwale just goes in like this. So the first thing we have to do is we have to prepare the gunwales. In the kit there is, for instance, a gunwale. There's also a back plastic backer that goes on like this way. So basically you take this and you have an etched side and a non-etched side of the plastic backer. You're going to glue the non-etched side onto the back of the gunwale, and you just do that by a bead of glue. lining it up, holding it till it sets, so that you have a backing. When that's dry, you're going to take one of these square nuts that are included in the kit and drop that into the square space. That's going to be the thing that the place where the guns screw into. Now once you've done that for all of them, so you'll have 4 gun wells, 2 for each side, and 2 doors, 1 for each side. It'll pretty much look like this. One side will look like this, so you'll have a gun well, a door, and another gun well. Now notice that the gun wells on the back are going to be, the square is going to be offset, and it's going to be, it doesn't really matter, but it looks better if the gun well, the nut is closer to the outside, to the back, because it moves the gun farther to the back. So pretty much you'll have 2 sides that look exactly like that. Alright, so the next step after you've glued the doors and the gun wells in is we're going to attach the sides to the frames that we just did. So remember, we have the 2 frames. We have the back frame and the front frame, and you just line them up. Remember how it was: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And what we're going to do is we're going to take the top half. The bottom half is going to overlap the top half a little bit, so it's easier to put the top half on first. And what you do is you see on the bulkheads, each one of the bulkheads, you have notches here. Those notches correspond to holes that are in the side. So you just go to the last square that's at the back of the Hellbadger, like this, and you put it in the last bulkhead. It just pops right in like that. So all you're going to do is pop in each one of the bulkheads into each one of these little holes that just moves up the front. Like that. So you have the side, the top side, that's attached to the bulkheads. The next step is going to be to attach the top piece to the front. So we'll do it from the inside, as you can see. So you have this front notch, which goes to the number 1, and you just pop that in like that, and then you just slide the other notches in. So you have something that looks exactly like that. On the inside, it's on the outside. The bottom half does the exact same thing. There's a notch, the back notch goes to the back notch here, and you just pop that in. And there you have it. Now, it's important, you don't necessarily have to glue them all together, but if you wanted to glue them all together, it's important to remember that you're going to glue the sides to the bulkheads. Don't glue the actual sides themselves together. So you're not going to glue this side, the bottom part, to the top part. You're going to glue the bottom part to the bulkhead, and you're going to glue the top part to the bulkhead. There's reasons for that, and we'll go into that later, but right now, if you're going to glue it, then just glue them to the bulkhead. And the other side, just do the exact same thing on the other side. Alright, so here it is with the 2 sides on, and as you can see, it stays together just fine without the sides being glued on. Again, if you want to glue it, that's fine, but this is really designed for modders that kind of want to get in and take it apart and make alterations. So until you have the final form that you want down, I'd recommend not gluing it together because it doesn't need to be. So anyway, the next step is to put the top surfaces on. You have the very back here, and that's this piece here. It's got the 2 slots where the tail goes in, and there's a little hole here, and I'll explain what that is. And this, there's no slots, no anything like that. That just basically just slides right in, pops in, just like that. The next thing you're going to do is we have this piece here, this little detail piece, and it gets glued on top. On the piece itself, there are guidelines that show you exactly where to glue this piece that's in the exact same shape as that piece. So you just look at put the glue here and line it up with the guidelines. And you'll glue it down like that. The guidelines do extend to the back. There's two parts of the back, and you want to make sure that it lines up with the guidelines, because otherwise the tail will be a little bit off. So just line it up with the guidelines. Once it's glued, you can just pop it right back in, just like that. The top piece. The top piece consists of two pieces. It's this piece that I don't even know how to describe. It's just a weird funky shape. And there's a little detail piece right here, and you just glue that onto the top right here, just like that. And once that's done, there's a notch here that corresponds with that. There's a notch that corresponds with that. And it just pops right over just like that. The front piece, which is made of the MDF and this sheet styrene piece over in the front, has 3 notches that correspond with these. And all you do is pop it in there like that. Now, again, this hasn't been glued on, but this doesn't need to be, it holds itself together. It doesn't need to be glued. The cot pick that we'll put in this slot here, we'll put that together later on, but as it is, don't glue it down right now. Just put it all together without gluing it down so it fits all together well. And there you have it. And that's the main body. The next we'll go into the wings. Okay, so now we're going to put together the wings. The wings consist of these 2 main wings, plus the different levels, different layers that you're going to place on the outside. The 2 main wings have etchings on both sides of the wings, at the bottom, top. And the levels, the layers that you're going to put on the wings, only have etching on one side. So if you lay it out and you keep all the etchings face up, you can't place these in the wrong place. So we'll start with the wings like this. And you'll see on the wing there are etch marks that correspond to the different levels that you're going to put on. So the first place with this etch, you're going to find this piece here, and this piece matches this. So what you're going to do is you're going to glue this to this piece and just line up the etch marks like that. And in each one of these levels, you want to kind of test it first, because sometimes you're going to have 2 pieces that go together, that fit together flush like this. You want to make sure you get them flush. So just kind of fit each piece beforehand before you glue it down to make sure that it fits. So you just do that and go with that one, put that like that. Then on this piece you're going to see another etch line, and that corresponds to this piece, and you just grab this, put those over, glue those over like this, and let those dry. Now, when that side sets, you're just going to turn the wings over and do the other side. The other side only has 2 layers, so you'll see that there's a simple curve etch piece, and that corresponds to this big piece here. Now this piece lines up with the edges of the wings in almost every way except for this curved part, so just make sure that you get it all lined up and flush with that wing. Same thing over here. This piece corresponds to that etch pattern, and this piece corresponds to this etch pattern, and there you have the wings. Now, like I said, as long as you keep the etch marks facing up, you can't put them in the wrong place. Each one of these pieces fits only one specific way. Each one is different, as long as you don't turn them upside down. If you turn them upside down, you can put them on the other side and it'll mess it up. So just keep it like that and you should be fine. The next step, I'll put the tails together. Each tail comes with 2 pieces, and as is standard right now, you can see that there's an slight etched line where this outer piece goes. Pretty much goes just like this. It gets glued over just like that. The other side is the exact same opposite, so that you get two mirror images of each other. So we'll put the tails and the wings in. The tail just slides in these slots like this. The wings do the exact same thing. Depending on how you want to put them, you can either put the swept back option or turn it upside down and put the swept forward option. So we'll just slides in there. It doesn't go all the way. There's some room here for the engines. And this side, slide that in like that, and there you have it. Alright, so we're going to put together the engine housing now. First step is to set it up like we have here. Now previously we had glued these detailed parts on the inside, so it will, when you put it together, it's going to look like this. But we're not going to use these because it makes the image more clear. Take those out of the way. So just set it up like this. So you've got an engine cowl, and then you have a small spacer and a large spacer. These small spacers are going to serve to have some internal structure. The notches are going to go into the side of the Hellbadger and hold it on the body. So if you start like that, move that out of the way. And you can see how right here how these kind of lock in together like this. All you're going to do is flip this side up just like that. And you're going to grab the small piece and you're going to line it up on the inside of these guidelines here. So basically you're going to use this to square off this piece and just glue it where the piece is within the guidelines and it's square. So you just hold it until it sets like that. So you can see that the piece is within the guidelines. Now once that piece is done, you just go to the back. The exact same thing. Put it within the guidelines. Alright, just like that. Now, what happens, what you'll have at the end of it, is one half of this, where the, like that. Once these are glued, let's just say that one's glued, you're going to take this one so what you end up with after you glue that down is something that looks like this. The inside, the outside piece, and you're just really basically making a box. So that's the inside, and what you're going to do is take the long piece and you're going to line up these with that. Really sort of what you did before is hook that like that and just put that up on its end and complete the box like that. Just glue it in place. Alright, so once you're done with the engines, you have an engine that looks like this. And one on the other side, the other one's not, don't worry about it. So the little grooves here go in the side of right here. So you just basically pop them in like that. The other side, just pops them in like that. So just like that. So, alright.
Ta-da!
So after you glue the door onto the other bulkhead, you want to make the bulkhead that the guns are going to be attached to. So what you'll need is this piece, which is the forward bulkhead. You'll need the two sort of gear structures like this. And you'll also need the resin piece that's shaped like that. So the first thing you're going to do is glue these two pieces together. Try to get them as close as possible. These are going to latch and hold this piece. So you want to try to get them perfect together like that and glue them that way. Once these are dry, what you're going to do is take this resin piece, put it in the center like this, so they should fit with very snugly, have a little resistance like that. And then these tabs go into this hole and this top notch here, so it just slips in like this, and you're going to glue these two tabs in place. Once that dries and that's set, this will move back and forth. Now, what you want to do first is you want to... Alright, so now you're going to glue these tabs into here, but before you do that, you want to kind of do a test run, a dry run. Put it in here, move this thing around, and see if it's got some play. If it doesn't, then, for instance, if when you glue these two things together, if it was a little bit off, you'll want to go in here with some sandpaper, maybe sand the inside of these U's a little bit to make it a little easier, or maybe sand down the center of the resin piece. We spray painted ours in advance, so it's a little bit sticky, but don't worry about it. But once you get it to where it moves how you want it, and just glue these two parts here. What I do is I put them in where they're supposed to be, get them where I need them to be, and I just put super glue on the insides. You want to make sure that, of course, when you're gluing it, you're not putting on so much glue that you glue these things in place. So I'll put that like that, put a little super glue on the inside around here, and kind of hold it till it sets. Move it back and forth as the glue sets so that it doesn't glue, just kind of like that. So that's that piece, and those are for the gun barrels. Alright, so we're going to put together the top cannon body. The first thing we're going to do is grab the floorboard. We replaced the red one with the brown one so you could see the edge pattern. The edge pattern is the bottom facing up. And the first step you're going to do is you're going to glue this disc under here. If you turn it over, it's going to be like that. And you want to make sure that the edge of the disc doesn't go over the edges here, or else the walls won't go on properly. So you just try to center the hole up with the square as much as possible. Once that's set, you're going to drop in one of these square nuts, as you did on the side of the Angry Badger, so that you end up with something like that. First thing you're going to do is take the screw that's included in the kit and just kind of run it through, just like this. Alright, and then you're going to put the bulkheads in. This is the back of the bulkhead, so that goes with the bulkhead that has the door in it. And that just goes like this. The front piece goes like that. And then you have the sides. The bottom of the sides are the pieces that have the square, and this is the top. Or pretty much you're just gonna like that. These tabs and those tabs. Just kind of pop it in just like that. The side, the same thing. Goes over. The top. It's a small groove here, a small notch. Just kind of pops on like that. And then you have the radar dome that gets glued down to the center. just like that. Now later on, we're going to attach all the guns together. So these barrels will slide over these resin pieces and just kind of move back and forth like that. So the next step is just to create the mechanism to attach this to the Hellbadger. So in the kit are two discs. They look very similar. One of these discs has a circle. One of these discs has a square. You want to take the square disc, the disc that has the square. So the next step is to assemble the mechanism that attaches the Hellbadger to the cannon. And in the kit there are these two discs, look sort of like targets. One disc has a circle in the center, one disc has a square. First thing you're going to do is glue the one with the square onto the one with the circle, just like that. Once that's dry, you're going to glue in the nut into the center. Pop that in, just like that. You take the Hellbadger and you glue this whole thing down to this little area here, and you can see there's an etching line that shows you exactly where to put it. It gets glued just like that. And then the screw just gets screwed into that part, just like that. Now there's a couple different ways you could do it. Probably the easiest way to do it would just be to glue the screw in place so that when you put it on it's not turning the screw, or you can just use a screwdriver to glue it in. But either way, that's how it attaches. The reason it's designed that way is that later on we can have different things. Alright, so we're going to put together some of the detail pieces right now. First thing we're going to do is some of the detail pieces that go underneath the cockpit. Before we assemble the cockpit and put that in, we're going to do some, for instance, the gun. This is the forward gun rack. It's got this piece. These styrene tubes are already inserted. This is standard styrene tubes that we bought at the hobby store, so you can actually build your own guns to place over. It just slides on and off, and we'll show you about the guns later on when we put all the guns on the ship. But right now, we're going to insert this onto the Hellbadger. It's very simple. There's not a slotting system for this. The reason for that is that we wanted to make it adjustable so you can glue it wherever you want. And basically, just you pull off the sides because you haven't glued them on yet, and slip it in like that. And you can move it forward if you want the guns to protrude a little bit more. You can move it back a little bit. So just glue that wherever you want. Slide the walls back on, and there you have it. And that's, like I said, the guns will slide on and off these little tabs here. The next thing we're going to do is going to glue in the nose gun mount. And similar to what you've done before, you have this disc, and that's going to get glued over that square hole in the bottom. I'm going to turn the Hellbadger over so we can see that. And basically just glue it so that it's right like that. Once that's done, you're going to put the nut in the square like you've done before, and that'll be where the nose gun screws into. Alright, so now we're going to work on the back part, the top, front, and the back door. The first thing you want to do is take this piece right here, and you turn it over, and you'll see an etch line on the back of it. That is where this piece goes. So you're going to glue this piece onto that etch line, just like that. Now once that's done, I'll take it off right now, but once that's done, this piece right here with the etch, with the detail bulkhead pattern out, just goes put onto the Hellbadger like this. So you have these two notches here and the 2 tabs, and they just kind of go on that like that. And the other side just goes on like that. Alright. The next step is to assemble the back door. You have this piece, which has the rampway on one side, the exterior part on the other side. And what you're going to do, there are 2 dowels on your kit. You're just going to glue one of the dowels to the end here. Make sure that dries. Just kind of center it as much as possible. Make sure that dries. And then you have this piece that goes over into these 2 slots here. And you glue that. What you end up with is this. Something that looks like that. The outside has this little piece of detail, which, you know, we'll call it what it is. It's a handle. And the interior rampway. Really all that does is slips into these 2. You see little holes here on the inside. And this is one of the reasons why you don't glue the sides to each other. You just glue the sides to the bulkheads. It just kind of goes in, slips down into the holes, it just closes like that. Alright. So now we're going to assemble the front ramp stairs. There are 4 steps. 3 of them have grooves, little notches here. The top step does not. Then you have 2 frames. And what you're going to do is pretty simple. You take the bottom step and the small and just kind of put it in like that. Push it all the way back. Try to square it up as much as possible. Just glue it in. And you just pretty much do that with the other side. So you're building the steps like that. And then the top step just kind of sits on top of the stairs. That's what you got. So now we're going to attach the staircase to the front ramp. The front ramp is this piece. You see it has the 2 notches. You're basically going to do the exact same thing with the front ramp as you did with the back ramp. So you're going to apply the dowel and this handle here. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take the ramp and glue it to the inside. The inside is the opposite thing, the side that's opposite the one with the handle. And you're going to take it and you're going to glue it as far back as you can. So basically you have this little edge that's going to butt right up against the dowel, and you're going to glue it as centered as possible. Right like that. If you don't get it far enough back, then the stairs will hit the body as it goes up and it won't close. So just glue it back as far as possible. And then we'll put it into the Hellbadger. So once the staircase is glued onto the ramp, it's very similar to the back. You're just basically popping this into the holes that are on the side. Now the holes that are on the side do have coverings, external coverings, and we'll go over that later. Like that, and it just closes like that. So it opens up, closes. Alright, so now we're going to put together the cockpit. The cockpit is these 5 pieces. This is very simple. You take one side and you put the upper floor like that. You take the other side and you put the other floor like this. This does all have to be glued, by the way. This won't stay together very well. And then you have the floor, and you're going to put it on like that. So there's a tab that fits towards the front, the narrow end, like this. And then this piece gets glued at a 90-degree angle like this. And you have the figures that stand here and here. So all you do with this piece is you take that off, and then it'll slip down in there like this. And this goes on back over like that. And then the canopy, which comes in the kit. Slides over like that. So canopy comes off, front piece comes off, this pops in and out. So now we're going to put together the engine intakes. In your kit there are 2 bags, and in each bag there are 5 fins for one side of the intake and 3 spacers, and we'll show you how to put them together. On the spacers there's numbers 1 through 5. It doesn't really serve a purpose. It kind of helps you keep them all in order, but the fins are all different sizes. This is what it's going to turn out to look like. So the first step is to take the 5 fins out of the bag and line them up in descending order of length. And all you want to do then is take the spacer with the numbers and just say the largest goes to number 1, and you just run it down like this. Exactly like that. You take this spacer, which is like that, and it has a long end and a short end, and you're going to put that in the back. So there's kind of a step pattern. You put that back just like this, and you want the shorter end of this spacer to go with the next to the shortest fin. And you just slide that in like this, and that keeps the fins spaced. Now what I usually do is I'll just run a bead of glue along the spines. And you have a piece here that's called form. It says form, and you can actually set that in between the fins to keep them straight while the glue sets. So just do that, run glue here, run glue here. What you end up with is something that looks like this. Alright, so when you're finished, what you'll have are 2 sets of fins that look like this. So the easiest way for me to do it is to start from the center with the biggest one and work my way down towards the smaller one, and then the bigger one on the top, and work my way up to the smallest one. You want to make sure you have a mirror image. What happens then is pretty simple. This whole thing slides into the engine like that. And you can glue it to the engine or not, but it's easier if you glue it to the engine, just like that. So we're going to do the nose wings now. The nose wings are pretty simple. This piece, and you have a piece that looks like this, and a little notch just kind of goes on like that. And then this whole thing slides into the side, right here. And exact same thing for the other side. We're also going to put some of the detail work on. As you can see, you have all the notches here. So to hide those notches, we've created a series of runners. For instance, this runner will go over like this, and there are etch lines that shows you exactly where to put it. There's a whole series of these in the kit, but each one is a different shape. So as long as you match this with the etch line, you can't put them in the wrong place. So you would just glue that onto here like that. For instance, there's another one that goes right here. One trick you can do is, for instance, if you think that these are too thick, you can get an X-Acto. It's a pretty simple process. Get a knife and just cut it down the center to make it a little bit thinner. It's up to you. There's also a series of runners that go on the side of the cannon. And again, they're all different sizes, so you can't confuse them. You just line it up with the etch mark and glue it on. Like that, and the bottom one would be the exact same way, just like that. Now we're going to do the landing gear. There are 2 landing gears. This is the completed landing gear. It's really sort of a cradle that the ship lays on. So, these are the individual pieces. First part's to grab this piece, and you can see that it's etched on both sides. What you're going to do is grab these pieces, one for each side, and you're just going to glue this to the outside within the etch marks. So just glue it like that. The other side, same thing, glue it within the etch marks. Then there's these tabs, and the feet, and you're just going to glue that like that, that like this. There's these little triangle type things, or little notches. There's a little notch here, and it goes over just like that. The other side, just like that. Now we'll take those out, but the last part is to glue the support, and this goes into this notch here, and goes all the way up. So you have that like that. So it pretty much looks like that. And these two notches are the two notches that go on the holes underneath on the floor of the Hellbadger. And that's the landing gear. Okay, we're going to put together the wing gun housings right now. We won't actually put the guns into them until later, but we'll put together the housings. There's two, obviously one for each wing tip. And there are these pieces. Now each wing gun housing contains three pieces. So this is one piece, this is one housing, this is the other housing. The way that they're designed is they need to be put together in as mirror images of each other, so that when they go on the wings, they're not facing the same direction. So the easiest way to do that is to look at the edges. So these pieces are going to be the same, whether they're left or right. These pieces are going to be the same. What you're looking at are the center pieces. On both sides of them, there's etches. There's an etch here, and then there's an etch on the outside, on the tip. On the opposite side, there's an etch closer to the center, and these etch marks correspond to these here. So you can see, for instance, this fits over that and fits within this etch mark. On the opposite side, this fits within that etch mark. So the easiest way to do it is to lay one center with the shorter etch side up, and the other with the longer etch. So what you do is, you can see there's two sides of these. There's a deep etch side, and there's more of a detail side, and this etch side, these sides are going to go in the center. So you just take this like this, glue it like that within the guidelines, like this. The other side, this one, like that. The other side, and then this. The etchings make a groove here, and this is these little holes are where the barrels are going to slide into once we put the barrels on. Once those are done, they just slide. This little slot here slides onto this slot on the wing like that. Now we're going to put together the chain guns. There are 5 chain guns in the kit. You'll have the body. The body's been put together with the ball and socket joint here. It comes with the barrels, the top detail piece, the side detail piece, and this I will explain what that is in a minute. So really the first thing you do is take this and you glue the barrel into the gun, like that. this piece on top gets put over the top and glued down, like that. And then the side piece gets glued on really wherever you want to put it. I put it right behind this sort of step here, just so that it's like that. The end result is that you get something after it's been painted, you get something that looks like that. Now, what happens is the screw here just screws into these screws, these bolts. So you have one here, one in the bottom, or one in the back. You have two on each side, and then you have the nose that just gets screwed upside down like that. This square piece slides over the screw like this. Just kind of hides the, it's kind of a spacer really, and just kind of gets screwed in. Yeah. Like that. The important part is you want to not screw it in so far. Remember, and earlier we put the backing back here. You don't want to screw it in so far that it pops out that backing that we've glued at the very front. And the ball joint allows it to move around. The screw allows it to swing back and forth like this. Alright. Alright, so we're going to make the wing guns now. Each wing gun has two barrels of these. And each barrel just kind of slides into the grooves here. Like this. You want to, line them up so that they're straight. And pretty much it comes out looking like we saw earlier, like that. And this hole just slides onto this notch, like that. We're going to do the nose cannons now. The nose cannons go on to this little slot here that we had these little notches there. You have 4 nose cannons, 2 angled, 2 cannons, and you can put them on. They're all the same, so you can just slide them on, depending on how you want to put them. On the outside, inside, however. Do it that way, and there you go. And you can move them forward, you can move them back, you can move this whole thing forward and back depending on how you want the final product to look like. And then put that back on, and the canopy back on. You have the nose coming out.
Okay.
And the next step are the cannon guns. The cannon guns are right here. These are the cannons. Ours are painted already, yours won't be. And they just slide onto those pegs. You can move them around, slide them up and down. Try to, line them up, try to get them as far forward as you want. Like that. So that will slide up and down. And little cover here. It kind of gets glued on like that, however you want it. I'll glue ours like that. And that's the cannons. And the final pieces are the engines, the engine exhaust, and they really just kind of slip into the ends like that.